George Lyon, Liberal Democrat MEP for Scotland. You wrote the report here in the European Parliament that fed into the proposals that now look like they're going to become the Common Agricultural Policy from 2015. How many of your original ideas have made it through?
The vast majority have actually survived the 3 years of negotiations. The report highlighted the need to end support going to so-called slipper farmers. It called for more money to be targeted at areas of natural disadvantage. It called for a climate change incentive to be put in place, which the greening now is. 30% of the money is going to be used to create a more sustainable agriculture. And it called also for the money to be used in a more targeted way. So clearly the new agreement now allows money to be targeted at young farmers, as I say, environmental services and indeed areas of natural disadvantage. So we're moving quite dramatically away from pure income support, which is what the CAP has been about for as long as I can remember, to payment for public goods and environmental services, and I think that's the right direction, and it sets, certainly for farmers, the future direction of where we're going, which is a more sustainable agriculture, supporting farmers who genuinely are farming and supporting areas of natural disadvantage such as the LFA areas in Scotland, which clearly need support above other areas such as the arable areas.
I mean, clearly, as you say, you're going to get rid of the so-called slipper farmers and so forth, but for farmers that are existing active farmers in Scotland, what actual differences are they going to see from all these buzz terms like greening, environmental measures and so forth?
Well, clearly there'll be conditionality now attached to the payments. So in Scotland, certainly in the arable areas, there'll be a requirement to do the three crop rule. There'll be a requirement to put certain areas into ecological focus areas. The main difference, I think, for farmers in Scotland will of course be the move away from the current historic-based payment system, which was based on the production they had back in 1999-2000, to one which is based on the acreage that they actually farm. There is going to be the biggest change, I think, that they face, because this will mean that some farmers will win, some farmers will lose. There's a lot of flexibility in how it can be implemented, and clearly we need to see what the Scottish Government's plans are in terms of how they will actually implement that change, as to how big an impact it will be in each individual farmer. But the biggest challenge, I think, that will face individual farmers is coping with that change from historic to an area-based payment system.
Now, one of the concerns that you have had has been about moving money around, really. 15% of the Common Agricultural Policy will be able to be shifted between what they call the pillars, the different types of funds. Just explain what concerns you have about that, if that is taken up really by countries differently across Europe.
Well, I think a great concern that we have in Scotland and the UK is that for the last number of years, in the last CAP, both the Scottish Government and the UK Government have taken money from direct payments and put it into rural development schemes. This means that the direct payments then going to Scottish and UK farmers has been top sliced by 15%. What's now been agreed, of course, is the possibility that other member states may decide to take money from rural development and put it into the direct payments. This could create distortions in the marketplace, i.e. French farmers getting larger payments than Scottish farmers, leaving us at a competitive disadvantage. We tried to block that and get that changed in the last negotiations, but unfortunately Council were unwilling to move. How many countries are going to use that flexibility, we don't know. Certainly the likes of Poland and some of the Eastern European countries that have got very low payments, they're going to certainly use that flexibility to top up the direct payments. Whether any of the big member states that have got high payments will do that or not, we don't know. There's some talk that France might do it, but we're not sure.
If some countries do go ahead and use that, what kind of impact would that have? What kind of disadvantage would that put Scottish farmers at, do you think?
Well, if our government in Scotland top slices our payments, clearly they get 15% less, and if the French government top theirs up, they get more. So the reality then is that our farmers are facing a competitive disadvantage against the French or any other country that chooses to use them. And that, I think, distorts the common approach of the Common Agricultural Policy. And that's why we've fought hard as a Parliament to try and limit that ability to switch money around between pillars.
there's been so many steps in this process. It is a huge reform process that has to be gone through all the different steps. It's not yet the end here at an EU level, but very nearly we're at the end of that. What happens next, and how important is the next stage from your point of view?
Well, the next stage is crucial for farmers. They now know what the overall framework is of the CAP. The Parliament and the Council and the Commission have all got the baby now on the table. It's there. We're now going to hand it over to the Member States, and it's up to them to turn it into a workable policy on the ground. Clearly for Scotland's farmers, their big concern is what's the Scottish Government going to do with all the various flexibilities it's got, and especially in implementing the change from historic payments to area payment system, which is the most contentious and most difficult to do. We're all still waiting on hearing from them as to what their plans are. And Wales have already published the plans. We know roughly what they're going to do. England already have done that conversion about 9-10 years ago. So it's not a big issue in England, but it certainly is a big issue in Scotland, and we need to see the Scottish Government now publish quickly what their plans are going to be, how they're going to use the flexibility, and what the impact is going to be on individual farmers.
Realistically, how soon can we expect that? And in the meantime, what kind of uncertainty does it leave Scottish farmers in?
Well, we're only 15 months away from the policy being implemented. It's got to be in place by 1st of January 2015. Farmers are in a business that needs planning on a longer term basis than 15 months to plan for change. They need to know, I would argue right now, what the likely financial support is going forward, because if they're a big loser, they need to plan for that. And how do they deal with it? Do they change their business, or do they take on extra land, or whatever? They need to know. The Welsh Government have already published their plans back in February, March. We can't understand why the Scottish Government haven't been able to do it up until now. So we need to see this being published very, very quickly, allow farmers then to respond to hopefully what will be a consultation, but mostly they need time to plan how they're going to adapt their businesses to the new system.